Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back to the show. We are joined by the dynamic duo from the Love and Design Project here today, joining us again, going to have a great conversation about all the interior design and the architecture that they're going to bring into your home, especially working, I know, mostly in New York City these days. But again, they're world renowned and they can work with you anywhere around the world. Samantha Bessudo Drucker and her husband, Jeffrey Drucker, as well, joining us here today. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. So nice to be back with you. I love to end the week on a Friday with you.
Thank you. Same here. And on a beautiful day in New York, right? It is a beautiful day today. For those new time listeners, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourselves and the project you're working on for everyone out there who's in need of this type of service, which is so many of us?
Absolutely. Jeffrey and I are a renovation duo. I'm an image consultant turned interior designer, and Jeffrey's an architect.
She's taste, I'm technical.
That's right. I'm taste, he's technical. Together we're unstoppable. And today, we do happen to be currently working on our own project, our own personal project, which is the renovation of our new apartment in Manhattan, which we're very excited about to do some funky things. But today we wanted to talk about, and we do specialize in urban renovations, apartment renovations, because unlike living in the suburbs where you have a house, you can build up, you can build out, you can use the shed, there's a basement, there's an attic. But when you live in an apartment, it is what it is. And therein
limited
lies
space.
That's it.
It does not change. You're limited by the space constrictions of your interior space.
Hence the topic for today. We're talking about sharing space in general. And
that's right.
You mentioned with a little renovation, sometimes, more comfortable space can be made and it could be solved through design. A larger apartment may not be that option. So sometimes you got to go with the bigger plan, go for the bigger place, but also the renovation probably is the best way to go. And you guys are really experts in life collaborations and you can help us with this.
Absolutely. So today's topic is sharing spaces. And a lot of times when we share spaces, it's brought on by life events. For example, cohabitation, marriage, the addition of children, or you're planning to build a family, grow a family, or caring for an elder. Yep. Often necessitates renovation of your living space. For many city dwellers, getting a larger apartment is just not always an option, especially in this market. So how can you redesign your existing space, reconfigure it, or make it more flexible so that you can accommodate the changes that you're making in your life?
So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that, let's just talk for a few minutes about if you do have the luxury or an option to change your space,
which is great,
based on some of these life events. What should you look for? So obviously there's the real estate portion of it, location. And, if you have kids, you want to be near good schools and all those kind of things. But we're not going to focus on that.
But you need a criteria list.
Yeah, we're going to focus on that.
That's right. Because if you do decide that you want to move, especially in a complicated real estate market in big cities, you want to have a criteria list.
So one of my pet peeves is when you walk into a new apartment, so often the way you're entering the space just doesn't feel right. There's a situation, sometimes you walk into the space and you're facing the third bedroom or you're facing a bathroom. And unless you see a plan where you can renovate it easily to make that change of space, that to me, that's an immediate no.
Or if you're in a really densely populated city like New York, maybe the broker has shown you what something that looks like a renovated closet and they're trying to sell it to you as an apartment. I've seen some things like
You're so
that.
funny. Yep. Mhm.
Yeah, but your criteria is the most important thing before you do look for a new space. And again, we're talking about the planning and interior space a bit more than the location. Put together a list of criteria. What's the most important things that you want to achieve and accomplish in the new space? Do you need 3 bedrooms? Do you need two? Can you utilize flex space? Do you need light to open, more windows and so forth? What are those most important things in that layout of that space? And, think about the future and the flexibility. Because in fact, if you're buying new space and you're going to do some renovation in it, you want it to last for a while and hopefully years to come. And do you think there'll be other life events? So, for instance, will there be kids on the way in the
Yep.
future? Or some of the things that we're going to talk about. So, do think about all of those things and make sure that that space accommodates those future flexibility and needs.
Because if it doesn't, then perhaps you're better off using the budget that you do have to really do a fantastic renovation, which
Got it.
might often just solve the problem.
Got it.
So,
All right.
Samantha, let's get into that. So,
Yeah.
life events that affect
Mhm.
your existing apartment,
That's
and,
right.
and how can we modify? So, maybe we start off with a very common one: marriage or cohabitation.
That's right. So you got to make room for the person in your life, especially if one of you is moving into the apartment of the other,
Mhm.
or even if you're getting a new place together.
That she did that in my
I
first
remember,
place that we
I was
lived
going.
together,
And
and it was
my
like,
biggest
wow.
question about you all, who has the bigger closet when you renovated? Who got the bigger closet? Yeah, he's such
She
a
has
good guy.
all
Of
the
course, of
closets.
course. Wait, when you first moved in, Samantha, before the renovation, was there enough closet space to begin with, or no?
Oh no, when I first met Jeffrey and I moved into his place,
Yeah.
there was no room for me at all.
Uh-huh.
At all. I had to carve, literally carve myself some space.
By
Uh-huh.
carving, she means dumping my stuff
So,
out
I
of
don't like
the
this. I don't like that. These shoes can go this. Yep. Yep. Got to
Do
move
you
on
really
over.
need this desk?
and I have to tell you, that's hard, because you hang on to things, even those that, we don't hang on to as much, and some of us more, but there's certain things you don't want to let go. So, you kind of phase that out. You say, okay, let me think about these. Okay, these can go, but these let's put aside. And, it doesn't all have to be at once. Samantha might disagree with that, but that's my observation of it. So,
Okay.
certainly in a marriage, you want to make sure that there's enough space for
Yeah.
each one to have space for their needs and requirements.
So this hack, which I really believe is the first step to any life-changing moment, life-changing space sharing, whether it's a girlfriend, a spouse, a relative, a child, whatever it is, a pet, whatever, whoever you are making space for to share your space, home, and life with,
Mm-hmm.
the first step is to get rid of the things that you do not need, that do not spark joy, that you never use, because you want to show the other person that indeed you are making space for them in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a space requirement kind of portion of it. But then beyond
It's
that,
also easier to renovate when you've cleaned out the clutter.
well, for sure, especially if you have to phase it. But and then the other part is to understand what each one wants and what each one is important. Again, criteria. Start with your goals. What are the main
Mhm.
things that you want to accomplish? Because without that, no matter what life event we're talking about, you'll be all over the place. What's your
Yep.
criteria? What's the important things that you want to accomplish in a renovation?
And recently, I have been seeing some new products on the market meant for sharing apartments with other people. And they have some extraordinary products on the market now, including sliding walls, like
Ooh.
the whole wall just slides. So during the night, it's your bedroom, and during the morning, it slides the other way. It's the living room. And in
Really?
this, yeah,
Yeah, no, they're
it's so cool. Like walls that do like this, and then
Uh-huh.
on this side and on this side are like closets that are built in.
Oh
Oh, I've
my
seen, or
goodness.
I've seen desk space,
Yeah,
and then it goes like this,
Samantha's
and there's a flat
imagination
screen on this side. There's some
running
amazing things.
wild, and I have to figure out how to do it, right? But glad you mentioned that, and those actually work very well for single
Studios,
folks
yeah,
who have studios,
that's right.
and you have one big space, and it's a bedroom at night, and how do you convert it into a living space or even more a workspace during the day? And a lot of these moving, sliding things,
That's right.
beds coming down
Wow.
at night, or desks popping out of the wall. There's so many out there.
I've even seen collapsible stairs.
What? I've
I
never
mean,
in my life I've heard of collapsible
Yeah,
stairs.
yeah.
yeah, like so you can make yourself a loft because sometimes you need to think vertically and
Okay.
use every surface as a storage possibility.
Wow.
And there are some really beautiful treatments these days. And once I saw some of these sliding walls, I was like, wow, that is amazing. I also saw something that is like one piece in the middle of basically a box apartment. And it was a rectangular modular unit like this. And on one side was like the bathroom, you took the corner, it was the kitchen.
Wow.
I mean, like, depending on what side of this wall you were on. But all the plumbing was centrally located, which, means we're getting into details, but I'm let you take
Yeah,
it away.
but in the city, especially for single folks with a studio, making the most of your space is really important because today there's a lot more entertaining from home and then working from home. Let's talk about that a little
Yes.
bit, Samantha. I mean,
Yes.
that's a big topic for everyone. So I think, certainly, those who are on their computer, professionals or stuff like that, they're accustomed to working in the office and obviously like to work remotely. It gives them flexibility in life, work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the important things is to have quiet space, good acoustics, and I think you do have to kind of have a separation from the other spaces in the house, especially if there's kids or dogs or stuff like that. All of those things, while we say we
We,
can work with them, we can't. Okay?
I'm just thinking about COVID. Do you remember all the newscasters at home on TV? All their kids were running like serious news stories and they're
Yeah.
broadcasting from the house and the kids are running around in the background. The
Yeah.
wife's at the door chasing the kids. So yes,
Yeah.
we learned a lot from this.
Yeah.
Yes, we
And
did.
it's a little better today because I mean the kids are going to school most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also a balance
But
there.
how many people around the world now work from home?
Yeah, I do most
And
days myself.
that's right, me too. And you and I, Jill, are not just typical um, professionals that just need a computer. You and I have production equipment,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have lights, we have
Computers,
mics,
lighting. Oh my God,
right?
cables,
That
wires.
exactly. And so that brings me to a tip to consider in the process of making yourself a home office. I would consider flex room, making it a room that works as your office, that can also be a guest room, that can also be an at-home gym. But and there's lots of new products that are, like I said, wall-based to make things spatially accommodating. And that whether it's your profession or your hobby, there are things to consider. Like if you like to sew, if you're a fashion designer, you need not only a place to sketch, but you need a
Mm-hmm.
place to sew prototypes,
Yeah.
to sew samples. So
Mm-hmm.
creating spaces that work with, in your layout, or maybe you're changing the layout. So to consider having spaces for people's hobbies and the kind of work that they do.
So technically speaking, though, you have, for instance, a lot of lights, ring lights, and all these different types of lights, and there's cords on the floor and so forth. And when I go into that space, I don't want to see those things. So we're considering having those things hanging from the ceiling, so that we can use those spaces for, maybe it's a flex room that's also a second bedroom, but if the things are from the ceiling,
roll down,
or they
things
roll
that
down,
electrically
then
roll
you can
down.
use it multifunctional. As far as, quiet space, there's a lot of things you can do. You can add carpet, you can add absorbing fabrics that kind
Absorb
of
sound.
sound.
You can do an accent wall and cover it in a fabric like leather or something that really softens the sound.
Let's talk about another life event that's expecting twins. Like you have two kids,
Yeah.
and twins are on the way, and you say, "Oh my God, we have a 2-bedroom apartment, or even worse, a 1-bedroom, but say a 2-bedroom, and we accommodated it for a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, but now baby twins are coming. How do we handle that?"
Good
Right?
question. Good question. Go ahead, Samantha.
So,
What do we do?
well, I'll start you off with your
Please.
thought from before. These movable walls is a very big a seller, or split walls, using
Loft
spaces
spaces.
vertically. While bunk beds are a known thing, but there's designs that you can use where you have the beds on top and you have desk space on the bottom, you have play space on the bottom. You have to think outside of the box and look at opportunities that are going to utilize your space more fully for not just the kids, but more functions. You might still be working from home.
And I've seen some loft spaces built for children to share a room that have cabineted cubby holes for their belongings or that wrap around the wall. So the idea of the bunk bed actually elevated into a loft situation really allows each child to have their mini own, private space.
So again, start with the criteria, the things that you're going to need. A project like that probably requires working with professionals like ourselves to talk to you about the layout and the plans and ways that you can utilize your space. But
and structurally, what's possible?
Well, for sure. Weights and power requirements become different types of needs on that.
And working within your budget.
But know that there are opportunities to make that work. You don't have to necessarily move and get a bigger space, especially if you like living in the city and everything is nearby, your work and so forth. The opportunities before was moving out further and so forth. There are all ways to do it. What about another favorite of mine, or maybe not? I know you're looking for new pets. I'm not ready for that yet, but many people have pets, especially during COVID. They needed pets to really help with the ambiance because nobody was around.
Well,
so
pets help with more than ambiance.
Okay.
Pets have become part of our families. There's enough studies that prove that they lower blood pressure, they help with anxiety, they help with bonding and teaching social skills to your kids. They make us more human, if you will, and they're part of our families. And wouldn't we want the animals in our lives that are part of our families to feel like they are not a second-class citizen? So that means having cat beds, dog beds, or doggy steps, or cat steps if your animal sleeps at the foot of your bed, or maybe you want their own bed, but you want to incorporate it into the interior style of your home so it doesn't feel like a hodgepodge mess. And just for a second, I want to talk about cats.
Well, yeah, and I mean, cats like to go all over the place. They crawl here, they crawl there. How can we make that more design savvy?
So that's why I'm wearing leopard print today in honor of cats. And so cats like to climb. And yes, okay, you can put a scratching post in the corner of your living room. Been there, we've all seen that. But it looks like, oh, this giant thing is in the middle of my living room. Where now you can get consultants to come in and help you build entire cat environments that happen somewhere between the top of the wall and the ceiling. And so that the cats can literally climb up and walk around the whole apartment, over your head. As it were.
That's design savvy.
That's design savvy, and to do it in finishes and materials that disappear into your interior.
All right. I'm not ready for a catch yet, but when we are, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Another one that I
One
think
day
is
you can bring everyone over.
that's what she keeps telling me. But anyhow, we'll see. Another one is the mother-in-law moves in. Now, I love my mother-in-law, but it is that definitely, and but it is a change in life. The mother-in-law moves in, the father-in-law moves in, or caring for an elderly. You know, how do you do that within your space? You know, I mean, obviously there are challenges, not just in separation of space, but you know, in different types of habits and you know, one likes to go to sleep early, wake up early, or may have different habits. Now, how do we cohabitate with different, you know,
And
agendas?
if you're lucky enough that your home or your apartment has a dual entry, you know, has a door over here and has a door over there, you might consider reconfiguring your floor plan to allow for a private studio apartment for the person who is coming in to live with you, so they can come and go and have their own life, you know, independent of you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the layout is such that a second door can be put in from the corridor space. I mean, obviously that's something you have to discuss with your condo board,
Mm-hmm.
but or co-op or rental, whatever it may be. But those are things that, you know, again, thinking out of the box, how can you make this space more workable?
Exactly. And going back to workable for just a second, I really love the idea of hydraulic desks on wheels. And I've seen some that are not only hydraulic, they go up and down, they're narrow, don't take up a lot of space. When you put them on wheels, you can roll them around to wherever you need. And the idea that they can elevate or lower means that you can use it to cut somebody's hair if you've got a home salon at home. If you're in production, you can get your camera and your mic at just the right height. It can allow you to get like a stair stepper or a bicycle wheel or something so that you can exercise under your desk while you're working. There are lots of things that we can do to multitask and flex the space, make the spaces flexible, do is multitask.
Yeah, and today's workspace is not like it was before with file cabinets and all that kind of stuff. You have it all on your computer. So actually, you just need a laptop and, you know, some items on your desk. So a counter with wheels that can be moved back and forth. We designed that in Florida. It all looks like part of the space. It all has the same tops, but it's flexible and moves space to space. Another life event, which, you know, hopefully doesn't happen a lot, but it is reality.
Injury.
Yeah, you know, the husband is out at war, or the wife, and he or she gets a disability.
Right. Veterans that come back disabled, or we get older and we become disabled from wear and tear,
or
from old age,
you know, an accident, a car accident. And so, you know, what occurs then? So, you know, a wheelchair might be involved. It might be a visual impediment or the such. And the main thing is comfort in the home. How one gets around. Can you use the toilet? Can you use the bathroom? Can you use the shower? Can you get into the tub? Can you turn the faucet? You know, all things that we take for granted in everyday's life begin to change. For handicapped folks, you know, there's something out there called ADA requirements, but they're real requirements. It means turning radius, being able to turn your wheelchair, being able to go into a doorway. There needs to be certain space requirements. That gets a little bit more technical.
You have to put in an elevator lift somewhere, whether it's attached to the stairs or whether you're actually putting in an elevator if you have a duplex situation. So lots of things to consider. Doorways that might need to be changed. You might need to change the whole floor plan to actually make it more comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, there might even be the need of a lift to get in and out of bed. But basically, that's something that you do want to speak to a professional about.
Toilet height, all of these things that we don't always think about become top of mind.
Even reaching a cabinet where you were easy to reach a cabinet before, now it's more difficult. And how do you handle that?
And maybe ramps are needed. And finally, adjacent to this,
Flexible spaces.
exactly, and baby boomers.
So baby boom is very interesting. By the end of this decade or earlier, all baby boomers will actually be senior. And many of them will want to continue living from their apartments
Hmm.
indefinitely.
Yeah.
Today, baby boomers and older want to stay in place and not
True.
go to senior care facilities if they can help it. However, most apartments are not designed for that.
And senior care facilities, unfortunately,
Oh,
have a bad rap.
yes.
And the really fancy ones are very
And the
expensive.
expense of it all. Yes.
Very expensive.
Well, but it's also for individuality. People want to continue living the way they have.
Absolutely. And the familiarity of their own space and their own sense of autonomy. And so, how can we make some renovation? So, it might be better to just stay in place and see what services can be brought into the home, either under, insurance or
Yeah.
independently.
So these are things
renovation for
that you
arthritis, age, things
right.
like that.
So absolutely, and you do want to think of these things ahead of
Of
time,
course.
and it includes also ability to navigate within the space, because as people become more elderly, falls come about, and
Hmm.
once a life-changing situation like that happens, and if you're not prepared, and if you're
Oh,
alone in the house and so forth, then unfortunately, the best route might be going to senior care facilities. How do you avoid those things
yeah.
in advance? So you do look for accessibility, getting in and out of tubs, the types with doors,
Yeah.
adding steps, and you can
Having
design it.
handholds.
The height of the sink, the
Right.
handles.
You can
Hmm.
design it in a high end manner or a medium level, whatever you want. It doesn't have to look ugly. A lot of these things they put in uh, uh, seats inside of
It doesn't
showers that
need to
look
look
ugly.
geriatric,
Right.
is
Got
what
it.
I'm trying
Exactly.
to
Just
say.
say it like it is,
Okay.
Samantha. Yep. It's
It
true.
doesn't need to look geriatric. You
Hmm.
can have railings and grit bars and benches that are made out of marble that go with the rest of your finish in your
Hmm.
bathrooms. The bathroom door can slide, so
Yeah.
it's like you're on the floor and it's all one level.
And
It
then
can be closed in glass that just slides. There are things that can be done that look modern, beautiful, beautifully finished, high-end finishes that make aging look glamorous.
And in the kitchen, again, reaching, pulling drawers, low shelves. You can add sliders to those low shelves so they go in and out. Try putting things that are heavy higher up.
Maybe
It
a
may
shelf can be built
it may
into the
be
Hmm.
kitchen.
different than you're accustomed to, but it's going to save a lot of energy and effort and allow you to function well into older age within your space. And then, in a technical standpoint, think about medical response systems.
Yeah.
Today, it's everywhere. Technology is here. You can have those systems incorporated within your home, so that in the event of an issue, or that you fall or trip or something like that, you can get that response immediately, no different than you would in a senior care facility. All these things can be designed within your facility.
Smart homes, to control the temperature, the refrigerator that knows when it's time to order delivery,
Hmm.
of the reoccurring grocery list. Doorways and locks themselves, if your hands shake and you
Yeah.
have arthritis, maybe it's hard to get that key in the door and
True.
turn it can be a whole to do. So now there are scanners, electric things. You can open the door with your phone. There's lots of possibilities.
So
Yeah.
basically, we went through some of the more major life events that can affect you in the future. Certainly, there are many others. The
Yeah.
key, again, is to go through the issues, the criteria, speak to
Got it.
professionals
Yep.
like ourselves, and talk about that criteria and look at options how to incorporate it within your
Great.
space. They don't all have to be major. They don't have
No.
to all be a gut renovation. Some of them are
So
superficial, or some adjustments that can be more in line with your potential budget, but do make a change.
so
And
make
I
the
just
list. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in because we talked about disabilities and we talked about aging, but just so happens that yesterday I gave a presentation to the Massachusetts Association for the Blind, who they reached out to me wanting a presentation on style. And so I shared with them a tip about closet division, so that capsule wardrobes, for example, everything that's in my grayscale, tops, pants, sweaters, skirts, dresses, that all go together, are put next to each other in the closet. So that, and with dividers, they can be separated. So all of your things that go together are in one section with a divider, and then another, so you can feel your way through capsule wardrobes.
I think we'll need a few more hours to discuss all these.
I know. I apologize, man. We are out of time. we gotta find out how we could reach you all again to talk about this, to make that list and start, talking about the importance of this. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Please reach out to me at Samantha@socialimage.net. You can find us on my website, SamanthaBessudo.Drucker.com, and absolutely check out our YouTube channel. That's 11 Design Project YouTube.
Perfect. Thank you both for being here today. Pleasure having you again, and we'll talk next week. Thanks for bringing this all to light, and congrats on what you do. Again, you're speaking, you're helping people, and it's great that they reached out to you for that in such a way. It's so heartwarming, right? But simple things you could do to really help in so many different ways. There's always a solution. Talk to Jeffrey, talk to Samantha. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.